Welcome to Seeking the Light of a Thousand Suns podcast, brought to you by Maya Skyryka and Gia. We are eclectic practitioners, and our podcasts are designed for listeners in any stage of their chosen magical path. Please join our Facebook or go to our webpage for podcast extras.
Welcome, friends, to Seeking the Light of a Thousand Suns. I'm excited today because today we have a special guest. We have Lily McNamara with us today. She's really well known in the pagan community in the Twin Cities, and I thought she was perfect for our episode today on To Dare. She has a lot of influences and a lot of experience and a lot of pep talks and such on how to dare. Lily, would you like to tell our guests what type of things that you do?
I'd love to. Thank you so much for having me. So my name is Lily McNamara, and I'm the owner of Lily of the Light. And I love daring myself and other people to have the courage to live their best lives. I offer events and services to help people be the hero of their own story. And I also host an event called the Samhain Symposium on October 28th at the Crown Plaza in Plymouth, Minnesota. And it's an all-day event to help people explore their spirituality and pagan topics. There's a psychic gallery, a lunch, there's readers, healers, and vendors, and it's all about inclusivity and raising each other's voices, because none of us know everything, and isn't that awesome?
Welcome, Lily.
Welcome. That is so awesome. I went to your website and I looked and I saw, some of the statements that you have made and some of the testimonials from people that you work with. And I just think that what you have to offer is so amazing.
Thank you. It's a labor of love, to be sure. I believe that everyone is unique and different, and therefore there can't be anything cookie cutter, because what works for one person isn't meant to work for another person. And so being able to delve into people's souls and discover what their strengths are so that they can honor them and hopefully dare to use them on a daily basis is something that I really enjoy. I love seeing their transformations and how much their lives can improve just by making small changes.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you could be here with us today. And this really does tie in with our previous episode to know. Last episode, we talked about ways to get to know yourself and the importance of knowing yourself, your craft, your shadow self, your fears, being conscious and aware, and how knowing yourself allows you to best apply yourself and make your magic more powerful. I'd seen a quote that I thought was really cool, and it was basically saying that it was basically saying, know what you fear, face your fears so you can move ahead. And for magic, this would apply to both magic and your mundane regular life. There's, all kinds of fears within magic. There's also all kinds of fears people have to face or challenge themselves with in their daily lives.
Definitely. I think that fear is a huge thing that holds people back, not only with like knowing yourself, but how to get over the fear to dare to be yourself and to be your authentic self is I think a big hurdle that a lot of people, I don't want to say everyone, but almost everyone deals with. Everyone, I feel like almost everyone deals with this. Who am I? And a lot of it is who am I without? So who am I without my career or my trauma or um, my family? Like, who are you really at your core? And daring to embrace that you, not the you that's kind of like on the surface. I feel like a lot of people have that life lesson in front of them, and
Yes.
fear is the thing that can hold them back the most. I think fear may be the thing that holds people back from daring to do anything. That's probably one of the biggest things that holds them back.
Well, and I agree. And, and then there's, the element, I mean, which is part of what you were saying, that, it's the unknown. It's not knowing, okay, how do I get this information? How do I establish what my purpose is, who I am, what I'm meant to do? And, and it's part of the to dare to be able to seek that information out and be willing to accept the information that comes through.
Yes, I think that's really important to like have people understand that that's something I want, like you said, explore. It's not something to that you don't have to understand fully. And I think something that a community hurdle, not a personal hurdle for people, is resources. Like you said, where do I start? What's my life's purpose? Where how do you dare? And if resources aren't readily accessible, I think that makes it much more difficult to dare to do something. And that's a community thing, that the community needs to be accessible enough that people can dare to delve in and have like the seeker portion of their life.
Exactly. And they have to be willing to, the community has to be willing to take a step back and realize not everybody's at the same level. And even there are people who are at higher levels that the community might not, they might feel a bit intimidated,
Mhm.
but those people still need help in seeking it out. And it's really just a matter of, well, there's multiple things that need to be done, but just being able to be brave enough to accept in a humble way, and to listen to others is huge. And it might not be something that, generally will always be a piece of information that needs to be shared. It could just be the act of listening that might be that trigger for that person to open their mind enough to receive higher information.
Yes, I agree with that. And As you were talking, I had a thought, and it's when we dare, like, knowing that not everyone is at the same level, how I've had this happen to me, and I'm sure most people have had it happen to them, where you're like just starting and you're getting like a little bit confident, like you're kind of owning it, and then you go into a group or a community and you're like, this is me. And you're not
Yes.
quite super confident, but you're like, okay, here we are. And then they squash you.
Yes,
And
exactly.
and then it's like, well, dare to, oh, nope, not going to do that. And I feel like that really stunts people's progress, is not having a safe community to open up to. And that's something that I strive for, with specifically with my events, my one-on-one services. It's a safe space. It's just me. But like with events that are open to the public and stuff, cultivating a community that is safe for the mass public. And like, you can't please everybody, but the majority of people, you can do the best you can. And to make sure that everyone at any skill level feels welcome, heard, and validated for where they're at, I can attest that takes so much work. And I would not do it any other way. I would never skimp on that aspect of an event or a community building experience, because they are so vital. Because we've all seen someone's light get diminished because one person made this noise in the middle of them trying to dare to be their authentic self.
Yeah, exactly. I know. And then it's also knowing too that there's so much that is unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And although there's general information that's passed down from one generation to another and discovered, we really don't have all the answers. And there are things that people seek that we might not have ever come across before. And it's going to take time to help them through that.
Yeah. So I have a question, I guess, or it's like something that I'm now pondering. What do you think that ancestral ties hold people back from daring to be their authentic self? Do you think that's something that, because like all this ancestral and generational knowledge comes down, and that's amazing. And the other stuff that comes down, do you think that holds a lot of people back, or do you think it's like a fluke or rare? Like
I think
how
there's
common is that?
I think there's a lot of different avenues. I think yes, for some it is ancestral information. For others, it could be trauma that or conditioning done in this lifetime. And I think for many it's the path we chose before we were born, and the challenges that we knew we were going to get ourselves into, our souls did, before we were born. And it's trying to figure out how to break the code to get through them so that we can succeed at what our soul wanted us to succeed with in this lifetime. But I mean, that brings up a whole different belief system. But yeah, I mean, there's multiple possibilities of what prevents, and it's trying to, like in the first episode, or yeah, with the first episode, know thyself, understand what those blocks could be, and
Mm-hmm.
then remove those blocks, and then which is a two dare. It's not easy to remove trauma blocks and conditioning blocks, but then to basically be able to dare yourself to go to that next level and start questioning what possible coding we chose for ourselves in this lifetime, and why would we choose that? How can we use that knowledge now to level up?
that fall kind of into the to dare category as far as daring to seek those answers.
Yes.
Some people will meditate on those types of things. Some people will try the Akashic records. There's so many past life regressions. There's so many um, different things that people can dare to do to get some of those answers.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And I think that also goes back to resources. Like, dare to seek resources and like stepping out of your comfort zone, because some of the things that you may want to look at may make you uncomfortable, but then you'll have the answers and your life will be better for it. So, like with past life work, like when I do it, I've never had a client regret it ever. They've always discovered something that's helped them in the present moment. And I think that that's so important for people. Dare to embrace the lessons that you've already learned. Like,
Yes.
you don't have to keep doing it over and over again. Baby, you already made the wheel. It's fine. Just start rolling with it. Like, there's no need to make it. Dare to be simple. We complicate things so much in the human experience that don't need to be, because we're under this really false and toxic myth from society that if you don't work super hard for it and if it doesn't hurt unbelievably much, it wasn't worth it. It wasn't a good lesson. Some of, we've all had hard lessons, but some of the most profound lessons that I've learned are in like breathing meditations. And so it doesn't have to be horribly painful. We complicate it. Dare to be simple.
Isn't that the truth?
Absolutely. And Lily, I know offline, the three of us had talked about this before, and you brought up a really amazing point, which was dare to say no.
Well, sorry, I got all excited. So I have a speech, a class that I teach, and the first part of it is all about saying no. And I believe no is the sexiest word on the planet. I believe there is nothing more beautiful than the word no.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think everyone should use it more often. Anyone who says this is their year of yes, I'm always like, oh, this is a year you gonna mess up your life. You are a dumpster fire and a train wreck is heading towards your face. Ooh. And it's the thing that people overlook so much. Everyone wants it to be like light and fluffy and like the movies. Oh my God, I just said yes and everything came to me. You have to say no to dating the wrong person. You have to say no to treating yourself poorly. You have to say no to so many things to make room for your yes. And that is one of saying yes is easy. Everyone's like, that is the most courageous thing you can do. No, it's not. Have you ever said no to a paradigm that you have lived your entire life doing? That's terrifying. That is
Absolutely.
a struggle. That is courageous. Saying yes to something you want, that is so easy. And it's beautiful. Yes, we love yes. And I believe no is so much more profound, and the courage it takes to say no, especially in situations that you're so used to saying yes just to conform to other people, or you're so used to saying yes just because it's the way it's always been. Saying no is daring, and I appreciate everyone who says no, even if it's no to me. Like,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
have what I do, because I believe that a lot of things that we dare to do is kind of like not stomped out, but kind of like diluted when we're younger by society, by paradigms, by culture, by parents, whatever. And so the tiny humans in my life, all the chitlins, and when they're around me and they say no, I will stop everything and cheer them on. And I have never once had like a parent look at me and go, oh my God, that's such a good idea. They always look and go, that is so weird. And I'm like, I want your kid to understand that no is a full sentence, that no is something you can say in any situation. They cannot, like, do not force them to do anything. And so when kids say no to me, I'll actually stop and go, that's right. And it's your right. And I will respect this boundary. Say no. Absolutely. And they are looking at me like I got six heads. because they were taught their whole lives to say yes. And so it's like we have to unlearn that. We have to dare to break the paradigms that our
Yes.
parents and ancestors have put in place, even if they were well intentioned. If they do not serve us, we have to dare to break them.
Yes. And in addition to that, going back to resources like you had mentioned, when we are brave enough to say no, it actually opens up our energy and our time to be able to see different resources available to us and utilize them.
Yes, the example that I always give is dating, because so many people
Oh, yeah.
understand that example. What would happen if you said no to the people who do not fit you? What if you started saying no to the loser who
I've
who
actually recently started to say fuck off, which is
yes.
so damn empowering. I'm like, why did it take me 42 years of my life to be able to tell someone that I started dating to fuck off? Like, really? And to mean it, and to not turn back. That's the other thing.
Yes, embrace that power. And like Mercury retrograde is the time, traditionally that the past comes up, and we work through the spiral and stuff. And I always post all over my social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of it. And I'm always like, Mercury retrograde is from this to this. This is your message from the universe. And I'll put it in like bold letters. Do not text your ex. There is no point. There is nothing for you. There's a reason
Right.
they're in the past. Because every time like Mercury retrograde comes around, there is at least one client, at least one social media follower who's like, I started dreaming about them. I can't stop thinking about them. I think this is the universe telling me that I need to give it another shot. And it's like, no, it's the universe asking you if you still stupid. It's the universe going, do you still want that shit life? Let's see. All you have to do is say no, and then
Yes,
it'll,
and
it'll
then
go away.
it's also the universe reminding you that that person sucked.
Mm-hmm.
And even if that dream felt good and it was like sexy time or something, no, the universe is trying to tell you, you know what? You had all this invested in this person and they totally screwed you over. Like,
Yep.
you might be dreaming about them right now during this time period, but it's to remind you, don't go back that way. But that person is just going to do the exact same thing to you, if not worse.
Yes. And I always tell people that the human traditionally, again, there are exceptions. I don't want to like be black and white about it. Traditionally, like we will run away from a bad example before we run towards a good one. And so that's part of like the saying no, dare to walk away from a bad example, because I have had people say, well, how do you know what you want? And I'm like, I've dated all the things I don't want. And so I run away from them, and that's just running towards what I want. That's really what how I feel about that. And with like running away from what you don't want, I kind of want to talk about how do other people affect us with saying no, with daring to say no? Because when I was younger, we are all born with our gifts, being an empath, being psychic, being a medium, whatever, right? And so, what happens when you dare to say no, but you're in a room with someone and you're like, oh my God, I like them so much? And again, I'm using the dating example because that is an example
Right.
that I use a lot, and most of us can relate. So for me, being a young empath, I, brutal honesty, dated and one night standed a lot of the wrong people. No shame, no shame. I was growing, but it's because when, as an empath and not being trained at, in that, I would be in a room with somebody and they would like me and I would like them, but I didn't like them. It was me being an empath. I was feeling what they were feeling. And I always found it so crazy, like legit bizarre. I would go to the bathroom. I'd be like, oh, I have to pee. And I would go to the bathroom. And in the bathroom, while I was like washing my hands or whatever, I'd be like, I don't really want to be here.
Right.
And I realized I always tell people, dare to get space. With being an empath, go to the bathroom. Do not ever make a decision in front of somebody. Dare to ask for a beat. I'll say, like, yep, go to the bathroom. If you are dating someone and it's like just before your first time, I always go pee. I'm like, excuse me, I'm gonna run to the bathroom. And if I'm in the bathroom, yep, and I'm like, nope, don't want it. I will like grab my purse and be like, bye, and just walk out.
Absolutely.
So I think being an empath and like seeking out those resources to get trained of how to ground and shield, dare to take care of yourself as an empath so that you're not feeling other people's emotions, so that you can dare to say no and actually embrace and understand and really resonate that it's your answer and not based off someone else's feelings. Sorry, that was my tangent.
I'm so glad that you touched on that, because that is one of my largest struggles. There was many times where I would have to do the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram just to seal myself up enough to stand in my own space without being affected by other person's energy, so that I can deliver messages or, speak freely and not be affected by their emotional response, if that makes sense.
It totally does.
It's so interesting to, like, we're all older, humans. We're not we're not young anymore. But I always tell, like, so I see clients of any age, and so my young clients, that are children or teenagers, we always do grounding and shielding. And I always tell them, ask if it's mine. Like, if you're feeling something, is like, is this mine? And if it is, go with it. If it's not, set it down. You do not need to carry anyone else's energy. Dare to set stuff down. You don't got to carry anything that's not yours. And there are a few things that are yours that you should let go anyway. And it's like, that's what I do with younger people. But in reality, at any age, if you are an empath and you are having trouble with this, seek the resources to get the training and the techniques that you need to effectively live your life without being, bombarded by other people's energy. It can be done at any age. Anything you dare to do can be done at any age. This idea that, like, if you didn't learn it when you were young, okay, now you're just screwed, and now you're an empath and you just have to like feel everyone's emotions for the rest of your life. Like, it's great to do it when you're younger, but you 50, you 60, you 70, you can do it too.
Yes. And I've got another example too. So I just yesterday had this amazing revelation, which, since we started this process again, each time you discover something more about yourself, and it's a very roller coaster ride sort of deal. I just got this eye-opening revelation yesterday, and I can't go into too much detail about it, because it's not a common thing, and it's to protect those out there that chose this life role as well spiritually. It is similar to being an empath, but not actually fully being an empath. Instead, it is a different type of role. And in this role, you are, in a way, like a manifester. You oftentimes, when you don't know that this is what you chose for this life, you unintentionally give the thing that the person that you're in the company with, what they desire, what they're seeking, but in return, as is a rule of thumb, what they were seeking, you temporarily lose. And from what I've learned in the past 24 hours and the communications that I've received, dare to not care. You have every right to not give a shit about someone. You have every right to protect yourself and not put yourself in that position where now you're being negatively impacted because you're unintentionally, this is a gift you have.
I
You
like
have the
that.
right.
It's the something that I talk about with a lot of my one-on-one clients is dare to not take responsibility. Like, you are
Yes.
accountable for your actions. And I cannot tell you how many people just absorb, not even empathically, but like out of some pseudo obligation weird paradigm, the wants, the needs, and the expectations of others. And it's, well, you can do this, so therefore I expect you to do this. And it's like, well, no. And so it's daring not only to say no, but just not to take on the expectations and the responsibilities of others, because I feel like in so many
Yes.
situations we are told, and it's like, well, that person said you have to do something, you have to fix it. And I'm sitting here going, with what?
No.
Bubble gum?
Right.
Like,
And there's a balance and order that is ever present for us to all grab onto in the universe.
mhm.
And, whereas you have people who don't have empath skills, they need to learn empath skills. But then you have those of us who have empath skills, and we need to learn the skills to say no, to not, like you said, take responsibility, to not allow ourselves to be put in a position of being drained repeatedly, or like in the situation that myself, quite literally, I have gone broke. I have had massive blocks with finding my mates, with having friends. I've put on weight that is one part myself, but then part other people's weight because of this role that I play in this lifetime. And I have to learn now to take moments to find a way to shield myself, not just in the normal shielding that I do each day, but to basically shield myself from trying to take responsibility for others, from trying to care so much, from actually caring so much. Because every time I care, this gift of mine starts up, the engines start up, and that person's getting something and I'm losing something.
Yeah, and
And it's draining, and it's okay to take breaks and not always give yourself.
I think you bring up a good point, that it's, what is the toll, and there needs to be balance in all things. But you had said, like, putting on weight because it's the weight of other people.
Yes.
And how does not saying no, how does being incapable of not daring to say no physically or mentally affect us? And I know that there are so many people close to burnout, not because of their own lives, but because of them absorbing the responsibility of other people's lives and taking care of other people. And that brings us, we had a really brief conversation, I think it was last week, dare to receive.
Yes.
So many people give and give and give. And then and I have seen this, and I have openly yelled at my clients in public. So in case anyone's wondering what kind of healer I am, that's the kind. I will yell at you in public. That they will, so they're giving and giving and giving, and then someone will go, do you need any help? And that's when they'll say no. And I go, hey, you have done enough. They just offered to take something. Hand it over. Release the vice grip on the entire world being your responsibility. Hand over the one thing that they said they'd be willing to do, because so many people, like, it's out of balance. But then how much of it, and I don't want to use like blame or shame, but how much of it are we manifesting in our own life by saying no to help, by saying no to other people, by like, I have such a hard time with people who are like, oh no, it's fine. It was not a bother at all. And I'm sitting there like, you stayed up until 2 a.m. hand making place cards. It
Damn
was
straight.
because we minimize our contribution, because it's like we don't think that our perception is of what we contribute is not equal to someone else. It's very distorted because of all this giving and our self-worth. And I think that's another one. Dare to have self-worth. Dare to demand equality in your relationships, which is something that I feel like people don't do because they don't want the awkward conversation with their friends. I love this conversation with my friends. My favorite people in the world that are like my closest friends, we on a regular basis sit down and we talk about our relationship. We talk about our friendship, and we go, do you feel that I am contributing? Do you feel that we are in balance? And my two closest friends that I'm thinking of, you guys are going to be floored by this. Every single time, both of us in the conversation say, I feel like I'm getting more than you. Both of us say that. We feel so blessed, and it's amazing, and it's balanced because we're both sitting there going, I feel like I'm getting the better end of this deal. And we both feel that way. And it is a beautiful to check in like that.
You know, I'm glad that you brought this up, because after having conversations with you, Lily, you actually gave me courage. And we haven't even discussed this. This is the first time you're going to hear this now. But one of the things that you were just saying just now, and then in the past conversation about setting boundaries, I have been friends with a person for God, 6, 7, 8 years. I'm not sure. Quite a few years. And we had a misunderstanding, or we weren't on the same page with each other, which turned into a squabble. And my request was, can you send me an email for me to look at what it is that you're feeling I need to work on, so that we can have a conversation about it? And the response that I got was, I don't have time for this. I'm not going to play this game. I'm not going to be a part of this bullshit.
Wow.
And it is so hard for me to even put a foot down or to even have a hard conversation. And my heart is hurting very badly right now, but I basically said, then I guess there's nothing to talk about then.
Good for you.
Yeah.
And do you want me to go kick this person's ass?
No, I still genuinely love this person.
I know, and you are literally the nicest, kindest, most compassionate, most empathetic, like loving person I have ever known in my life. And it pisses me off more than anything that someone hurt you.
I don't
But
think
I'm
it was
glad you
intentional. I
told her
really
that.
don't. Also know that when things are emotionally heated, people have triggers.
Yes,
And
they do.
it was really hard for me to even step into that boundary and courage role to even say, let's stop, let's take a breath, let's recollect. I want to know what it is that we need to talk about, and then we'll meet up again. That was so hard for me. It was
Absolutely.
incredibly hard. And then to get the response of, nope, I'm just going to work on me. You do you, boo, really was a really, really low blow. But at the same time, I still care deeply about this person and wish them the best. And maybe when we've had some time, we can revisit and, whatever. But I just wanted to touch on that because
Yes.
for me, being like the empath and being the reflector and boundaries, standing my ground, taking care of myself has not been my
Yeah.
best.
Forte.
Yes. And so this has been a really hard lesson, and especially a really hard lesson when someone that I've trusted so deeply didn't have the time to try to work it out.
Well, and one thing going forward, which you probably have already thought about, um, don't let this taint the perspective of other friendships you have and affect those. And I don't feel like I'm saying that properly, but for example, you and I, like, we literally could go like a year without talking to each other, and then we call each other and we're like right back to like we just spoke to each other like 5 minutes ago. And it's because of this complete like love and trust that we have with each other, where there's no judgments passed between us, and we just mesh. I mean, we're like soul sisters. That it's a relief knowing that, like, if I'm going through a dark moment and I go into my turtle shell for like 6 months and you haven't heard from me, that when I get out of my turtle shell and you hear from me, that you're not worried about our friendship. You know what I mean? And vice versa. Instead, we're just like, yeah, she needs some downtime. you know?
Well, I just kind of wanted to bring it back to daring to be uncomfortable
Yes.
because of how uncomfortable it was. But then there's
Incredibly.
also a second part to that. It's not just daring to be uncomfortable, it's daring to live the consequences and to push through whatever the outcome is.
Yes.
Not giving into because it was uncomfortable, it didn't turn out the way you wanted or whatever, to dare to continue to be strong and have courage and not let it affect you how you ask other people in the future, because not everybody is the same.
And it is, similarly to some degree, depending upon perspective. It's kind of similar to having a breakup, you know? I mean, when you like what you've done, when you've dared to have the conversation. And I mean, I've been in this position in breakup situations and in friendships before, and it is so incredibly terrifying when you're like, okay, there's a problem here, we need to talk about it, knowing that the potential of them just walking away and not like they never, like they just don't care, like maybe they were never invested as much in that as you were. It's terrifying, and then when you've braved it and you've had that moment where you're able to get it out into the open with them. And they look at you and, I'm picturing a moment where, I had a breakup. And just not any care in their eyes.
Well, and you have to ask yourself, what's more frightening, setting your boundaries or the consequences of those boundaries? What's more frightening?
Spot on. Yes.
What's more frightening? Saying things outwardly and then it escalating, or saying things outwardly and having it discontinue? They're all terrifying.
Damn
But
straight.
that's where the dare to set your boundaries and be courageous and stand your ground come in.
I think it
And
also goes to dare to be disliked.
Yes.
Dare to have people have negative opinions about you. Because if you are making everyone happy, I guarantee you are not living your authentic life. If everyone is pleased as punch with you, you are not living your best life. You are not a happy person. And it takes a lot of guts. Because I mean, being disliked isn't fun. Being hated isn't ideal.
Yes.
And when you are, it's like, okay, so when I get hate on social media, because I do, in the career that I have, not everyone is chill about it. It's I sit there and go, okay, so I must be doing something right if I have made them so uncomfortable that they feel the need to take time out of their life. And I recently, with haters and people who dislike me, I recently took on a very different viewpoint of it, which is super sassy and a little weird, but I'm going to share it with you. And so let's say that I have a post or something that is about being a psychic, and someone tells me that I need Jesus, or, I'm going to go to hell and they're going to take me, or something like that. I now get super happy with how uncomfortable they are. I used to be like, oh my gosh, this, it used to hurt my feelings and everything. And now I get like a little chuckle out of it, because I'm sitting there going, I stole part of your life. You spent 20 minutes watching my clip and getting pissy about it, and then constructing the perfect hateful message. My existence has snatched 20 minutes of your life that you cannot get back. You gifted me that 20 minutes of your life. Thank you for that.
I
and,
love that.
And I'm just like, yes. And now that I look at it that way, I feel so much better about it. Like, yeah, it still hurts to be, have certain things said to you. But trolls will be trolls.
Yes.
And now I'm just like, you gifted me your time. No matter what the message was, I now have part of your life.
Yes.
I now have part of your, time is precious. It is not infinite. And I got a whole 20 minutes of yours. So, go me,
Do you know what would be super funny, Lily, is if you said, girl, I'm driving the bus to hell and I'm saving you a seat.
Oh, so it's hard to be disliked. It is, especially with social media and everything nowadays. And it's inevitable. There is no time ever that everyone will agree with what you say. I am misunderstood and misquoted so often that for me, oh, there's one. Dare to be silent. So, like, we, of course, dare to speak up for yourself and stuff. And I have discovered that it is incredibly hard for me not to correct people when they misrepresent me. And like, I want to correct them. I'm like, no, that's not me. Let me tell you who I really am. If someone is determined to misunderstand you, whether personal, professional, romantic, family, whatever, dare to be silent. Dare to not fight with them and start up that confrontation. Because
Yes.
when you look at it, it's like, I got 20 minutes from that troll. How much of that antagonist, how much of your life are you giving them? Are you giving them 20 minutes, 2 hours, 7 years? I mean, it's it's being able to, if someone is so hell-bent and committed to misunderstanding me and misrepresenting me, and it's not worth my time. No matter what I say, they're still going to think I'm evil and going to go to hell, or they're still going to think that I make shit up and that I'm not really a psychic. And those are not the people. It's not my responsibility to change their mind. And so I
Yes.
do not give them any part of my life. So dare to be silent in those situations.
I love that. And I just kind of going with our brainstorm of ideas here. I really like the dare to try again if things don't work out as expected, desired. I know with some people throughout my life, I've had to give them the silent treatment as well, and I've I've given up. Like if it doesn't work right away, then I've given up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then given back into old patterns. Whereas if I were to dare to just keep doing it, it could very well turn out differently for me.
And I think that's, there is this phrase that we use in business, pivot. And so with the dare to keep going, I would say, because there's that quote from Albert Einstein, I think, that it's like, if you do the same thing repeatedly expecting different results, that's the true measure of insanity, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing.
No,
Um,
that's right. That's
but
correct.
it's, so I wouldn't want someone to do something over and over again the same way, but it's like, dare to continue and pivot, because so many people are like, this didn't work, let me stop, or let me do a 180, or let me change 17 different things at once. How do you know which change worked then if you changed 17? Pivot, do small movements to see what actually works.
I love that. It's like winding a clock, just changing the tick a little.
Yep. It's just altering it a little bit, because so many people have the myth that the only way to get big results is through big action. And the vast majority of the time, that's not true, because big changes, the most of the time, are not sustainable. Every once in a while, we can all do a big change and it hurts, but we can
Yes.
do it. Most of the time, the thing that changes is, I'm going to drink one more glass of water a day, and that change you can do. If someone does breath work before they go to bed, that they can
Yes.
do. It's little changes help. And it's like with people also, instead of it being, oh, you had a misunderstanding with somebody, okay, now I need to apologize and change everything I'm doing. Instead, just like change one thing. It's
Yeah.
change one part of the sentence and see what happens. Like, say please or don't say please. I have discovered, so I was raised very proper, and like saying please was a huge thing, but for me, saying please, like, makes me feel like it's a favor. And if you're doing business with me, you're not doing me a favor. You're a colleague, you're a coworker. So I actually don't say please. And some people don't, there's a few people who are like, you have no manners. And I'm like, well, that's fine. You're a twat. But they're entitled to their opinion about me. But for me, you want to know what changed about that one word, me not saying it? Nothing with other people, everything for me. No, again, there's the occasional person who's like, you don't say please, you're rude. But the vast majority of people will do what I say. We have open communication. Me not saying please didn't change the results I got from other people, but it did make me love myself and respect myself more, and understand that I was empowered to say this without making it sound like a favor. Because it's not a favor for you to pay me after I have given you a session.
Yes.
You pay me. It's not, please pay me. It's, you owe me $75 or whatever. And so taking out please did a lot for me, and it didn't change anything else for anybody else. And I'm like, yeah, but it's meant to change my life. So I love that example.
That's a great example. I love that too.
So we've talked a lot about daring as far as getting to know yourself and the mundane choices and the mundane actions of to dare. And I think we should just pivot a little bit and talk about it on a magical sense as well. Like daring to be yourself. We talked about, being yourself in the mundane world, but what about the magical world? There's so many cliches, and there's so many things out there that people are trying to follow this mainstream view of witches, witchcraft, magic, and things like that.
So
What
with
about?
that, I would say, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm getting all excited. Dare to be small, dare to start small. I cannot tell you how many people have done training and sessions and they walk up and like in the magical, world, they're like, I want to start with sex magic. And I'm like, you can start with a birthday candle and you can do a little bit of candle magic with a tiny little candle that's not going to burn your house down. That's what you get to start with. You can start with some healing stones. Um, so with your magical stuff, I feel like there is that stigma that it's like, oh, if it's not big and powerful, or if it doesn't look like the movies, oh my god, that it's not life changing. And like a birthday candle is just as valid of a magical tool as a giant $100 custom made hand carved candle,
Yes.
Well, and another thing too is what I see a lot of on social media, whether it be like Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, or whatever. I follow a lot of groups, and there's a lot of cool stuff out there. But what I see the most is everyone looking or trying to achieve a look that's the same. It's almost like a fashion contest on how much, drawings you can have on your body and what kind of clothes that you have on and how magical bam out there you can be, which is great. I don't have anything against that. But are these people truly daring to be themselves then, or are they daring, or are they hiding within a?
social construct. I feel like it's the
Yes.
witchy version, the pagan version, the magical version of a basic bitch. Like it's very cookie cutter what's out there. They are not daring um I do tarot, but it's everyone does tarot and everyone works with everyone's a Reiki healer and understanding that those are like the resources that are out there. But when I see someone who's just like everybody else, I honestly don't take them as seriously in their magical practice. I'm like, oh, so you like were built on a conveyor belt like the last 100 people that I saw.
I really suck at tarot. Like I actually really suck at a lot of stuff that's more
Dare to suck,
traditional.
baby. Dare to suck.
And I know that's exactly it. Like I'm totally cool with it cuz like I mean, even with like candle magic, herb magic, I mean, when I go to mix up a potion, it's literally out of like necessity. Like my son's got a bad virus and he needs something to help soothe him, and it's like a tea concoction that I'll put some extra healing and love in there, right? But
Yeah.
it's not out of a book. It's not out of a chart. It's not out of any of it. Like I said, tarot I suck at. I mean, I tried it over and over and over again and just damn I fail. And that's cool. And then I mean I kind of suck at quite a few things. And then I'm mediocre at other things, but the times that work for me are literally when I'm just like I just have an idea pop in my head on how to get something done and then I just go do it. Like
Well, I think that's a dare to follow your intuition. And
yes.
like when I think about that, I think about dare to have with your magical practice specifically, dare to have a routine. And I was talking to a baby pagan yesterday. And they're like, well, what do I do? And I'm like, do you want to go with the seasons, the wheel of the year, the high holidays, the moon? Like, what timing do you want to work with? And they were just like, that's a lot. I'm like, there are infinite options. So for
Yeah.
me personally, my magical practice is sporadic. And
Yep.
people are like, oh my God, like you're a professional. You do stuff full time. I would have thought you would have had a daily, a weekly, a monthly, a yearly. No. And it's because I just follow my intuition. Everything I do is very intuition based. And that is not for everyone.
No,
The
it's
vast
not.
majority of people dare to have a routine. Dare to every Monday, the moon day, tap into your intuition. Dare to every full moon, set your intentions. Dare to, every high holiday, do a cleansing and some ritual work. I feel like that's something that a lot of people who are new, beginner and intermediate forget, is that you choose your schedule. And it
Yes.
can be sporadic, like mine, which is very go with the flow, or it can be completely regimented, and both of those are fine. Dare to honor what you're doing in your magical practice as what it is. I cannot tell you how many people have told me that I do it wrong. And I always look at them and go, I am pretty darn successful. I am very happy with my life. I'm good. Like, and you're telling me that I'm doing it wrong. I'm doing it wrong for you, but I'm absolutely doing it right for me in my magical practice. And so that's something that I think a lot of people dare to do what's best for you in your magical practice, as long as, let me be clear, as long as it is ethical
Yes.
and you are not hurting anyone or anything. And I teach that in all my classes. I'm like, everyone is different. So, like, your way to calm down may be screaming at the top of your lungs. Someone else, it may be breathing. Who cares? But if your way to calm down is to kill a cat and wear it as a hat,
Oh, yeah.
that's not okay.
Oh,
You are not doing what is right. Please go seek professional help. And that is the example that I use. And people go, oh wow. And I'm like, yeah, so as long as you don't hurt anybody, absolutely do what is best for you. Dare to follow your own path. But if your path is hurting anyone or anything else, then I urge you to seek help. So, yeah, as much as I say, do what works for you, please know that comes with a caveat.
yes.
Another thing that I see a lot on social media um, is, in a lot of these groups is, how do I accomplish this, or how do I accomplish that? How do I get this person out of my life? How do I tell this person I'm pregnant? How do I? And I say, dare to explore the mundane possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. Have magic in your life. Use it as a tool to improve yourself and the things around you, but also dare to explore the regular mundane things. If you need to tell your other that you're pregnant, tell your other that you're pregnant.
Yep.
If you need to get rid of somebody in your life and it's toxic and it's dangerous, call the police.
Mm-hmm.
Call in your
Absolutely.
resources, call in your family, call in your friends, get help. I see so many things where I smack my forehead because, yeah, do some magic around that. Absolutely. Double up, baby, right?
Yep.
But
Yes.
do
And
the mundane parts too.
Should
anything
throw everything at it.
anything can be magical. It's not, because everyone's like, oh, well, calling the police isn't magical. So my car broke, and it was because I did not have steering wheel fluid. I have no clue what that is.
Oh,
Um
yeah. I'm
in
sorry.
my car.
Been
So
there.
my steering wheel seized up, and I was stuck in an intersection in Minneapolis. Not my shining moment. And you want to know it? I did not sit there and pray to the universe to like do Reiki on my car. You want to know what I did? I called 911. I'm in the
Yes.
middle of an intersection in Minneapolis. And like, I'm not against cops or for them. Like, I get a little bit nervous, just like most people in Minneapolis now. But you want to know what happened? Manifested the most lovely, patient, understanding police officer. He popped my hood and looked at it for me. He
Oh
did
my
not have to do that.
God.
He could have said, you need to pay to have it towed, and I'm just here to make sure that you don't like get sideswiped in the
Damn,
process.
girl.
He looked at everything. He told me what I needed to do, shut off my car, turned it back on. He got it fixed enough that I could get it home. And I was like, that was magical for me. And
Did you get
I,
his business card?
no, I did not, but he was gorgeous.
Oh, damn.
Beautiful human being, with great hair.
Oh,
And
damn.
so I am sitting there in like workout clothes because I'm like on my way to Pilates, and I'm just like, I look like a crazy person, but that's okay because I do
He
not look
probably
cute.
thought you looked pretty hot, just to
Oh,
be honest.
I do not look cute going to the gym. I look like one of those weird people at 2 a.m. at Walmart who should not be out in public. Because I
Whatever.
am there to sweat and get disgusting and get work done. I am not there to look cute. I am there to make the weirdest face while going, I can do it. Um, but no, and like to me, that was magical. So, like, it matters. These mundane things, anything can be made magical. It does not have to be candle magic or ritual. Like, calling for help can be magical. And like, dare to attract the energy that you want in your life. I attracted I have not always had nice patient police officers help me
No, me
with
neither.
stuff. This one was a gem. And so I sit here and I'm just like, yes, those things can be magical. Dare to attract what you need from the mundane life and make it magical.
I've got kind of a twist to throw into this. Again, this is all part of that revelation that I had yesterday. There are going to be those of you out there, like myself, who are restricted in doing any magic for yourself. You can do all the magic in the world for others, but you literally signed a contract before birth to make your life more damn challenging, and you are not able to do magic for yourself. In which case, you're gonna have to rely more on the mundane for yourself. And that's something where you're going to have to think outside the box in a lot of situations and scenarios. Now, I don't know all the rules and all the specifics of it. There might be, different various branches of rules and regulations or whatever it is that's going on in the universe that might allow you to, hey, I'm like, for example, I'm going to use your example, Lily. I'm going to make this call to 911 for maybe thinking of it different, maybe for the police officer's benefit. Please make sure that they're patient and nice so that I don't negatively impact them. Like, you're going to find ways to kind of get around that rule if you are in the life scenario that I'm in. And so if you find yourself trying to do magic for yourself and it doesn't work out, you might have just signed a contract to restrict yourself just to give yourself an extra challenge. And you're going to have to think deeper. You're going to have to pull out the big guns of thoughts. So.
Well, and if you do explore magical practices for outcomes, I dare everybody to really explore how every single way that it can go sideways is before they actually do the practice. Because a lot of people will grab spells from somewhere else, from someone else, from the internet, from books, from whatever, or even create their own and not think about all of the possible outcomes that can be from the wording or the request that's being presented out to the universe. And let me tell you, since it does take the least path of resistance, there are all kinds of outcomes on how this can be presented that you may not have been ready for or would not be, like you said, Lily, paying the toll on.
Mm-hmm. And
There's this.
I have an example with that I give people, and it's a little extreme, but again, those get the point across. Like with your wording, I tell my mom that she shouldn't work with the Fae because my mom isn't good with wording things. And so I give the example of, are you cold? Well, yeah. Do you want to be warm? I'd love to be warm. And then they set your house on fire. So now you're very warm now, aren't you? But now your house is on fire and you also owe the fae a favor because they did you a favor. And like, again, it's an extreme example, but it's like, word things correctly. If you are cold, like, say you want to be warm with a sweater, because there are so many different, like you said, outcomes and paths that it can take. And another thing I want to mention is dare to be honor the process above the outcome, because what I have seen on social media and a lot of, this like conveyor belt witches that are just being coming out a lot recently, everything is result based. Like, I want to find love now. I want to get rid of this person now. I want money now. Like, all of them are very, one, like instant. Like, they think that it's instant. And two, like, they're all about a result. It seems like the process has kind of faded into the background. So dare to honor the whole process and not just obsess about the outcome to the point where it's no longer effective to even do the magic.
Well, that also goes into like another part of this pyramid that we'll be discussing on another podcast, and that is to be silent and to go. Once you've done spell work, you're not supposed to sit and reflect and think on it and continue to obsess about and expect immediate results. You're supposed to release it, let it go, do what it's going to do,
Mm-hmm.
and not negate the process by
Yeah, it's
con-
stop messing with it. Stop touching it. Stop fiddling
right,
with it. Just let it be.
right.
People, so in my house, there are currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spells up, and I oh, 6. I forgot about that one. Sorry. And I call them cooking. I'm like, once the intention is set and the crystal grid or the cards or the whatever is up, I just let them, what I call, cook. And I just leave them to do whatever they're meant to do. And like, I will look at them and be like, oh yes, that is there. I hope that's going well. And then like walk away. I do not like tune into the energy or anything. I feel like, yeah, people are like, I'm going to keep fiddling with it. It's like, no, stop touching it. Just let it be so that it can go. So I always let my spells cook, until they're done, and just leave them. Just leave them. There's no need to touch it all the time. We went silent for a minute. Sorry, everybody. I think our mics cut out or something. So yeah, that's what I think. Like, dare to just let your spells be and dare to honor the process is all very, very real and needed for this part of our process, in our magical practice that we all, strive to have a beautiful magical practice in our lives.
I think another thing too is going back to like the social medias and the cookie cutter and the spells and the books and all of that is dare to be creative and different. We're not all the same. Not all of our abilities are the same. The way that we do any of our crafts or practices aren't the same, nor should they be. I don't know if I had told you this, but I was very, very discouraged with witchcraft when I had started back over 20 years ago because I have aphantasia, and every single book and every single lesson and every single thing out there at that time was all visual based. It's all about visions, opening your third eye, projecting this in your third eye, project this in, while you close your eyes on your curtain. Meditations, visualize this, crystal healing, visualize your chakra. It was so discouraging for me. And I worked and worked and worked so hard. I spent years looking up how to project things in the mind, how to open the third eye, how to see things, down to like hold the apple, turn the apple around, look at every nook and cranny like a bug. I mean, you name it, I did it. And to this day, unless it's a quick snap of somebody else's vision, I have no visual ability whatsoever. And for me to still be here and still be able to do magic, I had to adapt to and dare to be creative and different.
Yeah, and I think that goes into dare to be creative and different, dare to honor the gifts that you have instead of the whole coveting other people's gifts. I never understood. And yet in classes and everything, it always comes up. I wish I could. Why can't I do this? And and I'm an extremely visual person. And for me, like leaning into my strengths, I was always told I was very shallow and superficial. And I'm not. I'm just an incredibly visual person. So if it's appealing for me to look at, I will like it more. That is just the way I'm wired. And that's not everybody. This idea that it's only visual or it's only sound or it's only tactile. No, like however it works for you. I know people who it's like it's all smell. Bless their cotton socks. It's all smell. And so it's all these different candles that mean different things and incense that mean different things. I burn the cinnamon for this, I burn rosemary for this, and I love that. That's beautiful for them. I would not be able to do that. It's dare to accept the gifts that you have because they are exactly that. They are gifts. They are wonderful. They are amazing. And even if they're not mainstream, like you said, it doesn't have to be visual. I do not like that myth, that paradigm, that stupidity in our culture that it has to be one way or that this is the most powerful way. Dare to disagree. Dare to tell someone that they are wrong.
Yes. Yes.
I love that because that the larger majority of the population does have visual skills. And yes, I would agree that if you had that ability in your toolbox, that it would definitely increase, your intent, and it would increase, your direction of energy, and it would increase everything in your working. But you also have to dare to be different, creative, and find what works for you.
I think that I think the five senses are distributed in such a way, the abilities evenly. It's more so the teachings that are not. And like you both have said, I mean, you got to dare to be creative. You got to dare to, change things up, turn it into what will work for you. And the whole visual is the majority, not really. I mean, but it comes off that way, right? Because in a lot of the books and on a lot of the forums and so on and so forth, the teachings, they base it for visual practitioners. And
Yes. Yes. And
it's
that goes back to resources. Like
yes,
if visual is the only resources out there, how truly discouraging is that? That it's like, well, yes, yes. That's all I have to say is yes.
absolutely. I dare, if any person is out there right now who creates workings, forums, books for those who are practitioners, I dare you to start creating those to target people who are not visual.
I'd love to dare the listeners that are primarily visual to try to do it blind.
Yes. I love that.
Oh, challenge accepted.
Woo!
Okay.
I love it. Hell yeah.
On one of our follow-up podcasts, we are going to do this. We are going to discuss it. I will do something non-visually because, like I said, I'm an incredibly visual person, and it is the psychic ability that I use most often. Like claircognizance and clairvoyance are my two heavy hitters. And you're right. If that were gone in my magical world in my magical practice, how would I do a spell? And I'm honestly sitting here thinking, and I'm like, it would change everything, and I would have to learn at least one new technique. And I kind of
Yes.
want to do that, just to be like, one, it's doable. Two, this is the process in which I did it to figure out how not to do it visual. And when I say visual, I mean like laying out, because like I said, I have spells cooking, which is like stones and crystal grids and tarot cards and a bunch of other stuff that's like out, and that's visual. I can see it. So if I took away the objects, the things that I can see, and also in a spell took away my visualization of like, you are in a forest and now manifest, the new car you want or whatever. If
Yep.
I took out that, both of those, because visual is in your mind and in the physical world. If you took out both of those, what would it, for lack of a better term, look like? And I
Yes.
think that's something we should explore. Why the fuck not? Let's do it. I'm down.
Okay, and then I want to add an extra level to that. So, or like extra credit, right? So, everybody out there, give this a try. And then if you want like extra credit for yourself, give it a try with the sense that is the dullest for you. So like for me, because I smoke, I have no sense of smell. And so if I want extra credit for myself, I need to try to do these things, even for a day, with my sense of smell.
I like that. I like that extra credit thing. It's because there are so many more senses than just visual, and now it's making me think, like, not only like what our gifts are and our abilities, but what about our disabilities?
Yes.
What about people who are blind, who can't look at a crystal grid, or what about people who are neurodivergent, who can't do certain like textures on their skin, like they couldn't pick up a pine cone and hold it and honor Mother Earth like that because the texture would wig them out.
Yes.
And stuff. So I feel like that opens up a lot of discussion that we should touch on in the upcoming podcast that we are now going to do in the upcoming episode, because there's so many more options and accessibility and accommodations that you can make. It is not one size fits all, and let's explore that. Absolutely.
I want to also say, I think this was all meant to be, because so before Maya had brought up the non-visual, my bathroom door behind me creaked 3 times. There's nothing's blowing in here. Everything's turned off. It hasn't done that since, or it hasn't done it before either. But it did that, and it did it 3 times. And I think it's a sign that we all need to give this a try. So that was really weird, but I'm just throwing that out there.
I love it. Let's do it.
I think what would be super nice is if the listeners, anybody that takes on this challenge, go to our Facebook page, put in how it worked for you. Go to Seeking the Light of 1,000 Suns Facebook page. Put in some comments. Put in suggestions. You have suggestions of things that where you've, experienced this before for other people that would be helpful. Make a comment.
I love it. And I know we've been talking for over an hour already.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
I love it.
All right. So our next episode will be to will. As we're going through the witch's pyramid, these are basically the layers and the foundations of magic to be the most successful for the magician.
If there's a will, there's a way. Sorry, just had to add that.
So these all build upon each other, and they'll all kind of make sense as we pull them all together. But don't forget to go to our Facebook page or our website. We a lot of times will put some extra podcast extras, worksheets, meditations, and other things there. And please check out Lily's website as well. Check out the events, check out the services that she offers.
Yeah, I make it super easy for everyone. So it's lilyofthelight.com. And then on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, it's Lily of the Light. So feel free to look it up, and you can message and schedule sessions and everything like that. I look forward to hearing from all of you. And thank you guys so much for having me on the show. It has been so much fun.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. This has been an absolute pleasure and an honor.
It has been. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Blessed be to all the listeners.
Yes. Bye, everybody.
Bye.